Hello there, my good YouTube people. It's Bridget back again from It's Your Time channel. And today is the last day that we will be doing our Capricorn Chronicles. And it makes me a little sad, but I'm also excited about um, moving on to different things and more things. I'm going to do some just everyday teaching about how to be a good nurse, how to be a good person, how to be a good family member, a good sister, a good friend. But if this has been a blessing to you, if you find that you like this, I would invite you to like, share, and subscribe, and we will get on into our last topic for the Journal of Capricorns. And you know what? This was not on purpose, but the last entry, it's entitled, What Do You Need from a Person to Be Able to Trust Them? And that is probably, if I'm being transparent and vulnerable, this whole thing about YouTube is vulnerability, right? Um, that's a big one for me. And there's all kinds of situations and relationships in which, trust comes into play, and we need trust in any relationship, whether it's a coworker, a family member, a girlfriend, a partner, a spouse. And having to, and I'm going to go back to what I like to say often because it never fails me that life happens for you and not to you. Most people think of it the other way around. Life does not happen to you, it happens for you. And as I was growing up, and there were quite a lot of things that, if you've watched some of the early episodes, probably I think the first 5 episodes I shared with you about my life, how I grew up, and some of the pitfalls, none of which were, my own. We're born into certain things. And parents aren't, parents and givers, I wouldn't say caregivers, I'm trying to say more like people that take care of us in the parent realm, in the parent form, people that have stepped in for parents. No one is 100% perfect. No one gets this detailed manual on how to raise a child, right? But there were just a lot of things that started even before I really could even remember. I think the first one was when my dad walked out when I was 3. Um, my mother unfortunately found herself in a relationship with a married man, and I think they were together for about, if I'm, I think this, I don't know why the time kind of like gets fuzzy in my head, either 12 or 17 years, right? And I'm sure it wasn't her intention to stay that long. I mean, who would do that when they have to be uh, with someone who's really not 100% theirs, correct? So that was the first thing. And she'd actually given him an ultimatum. She told him that if he wasn't ready to move on and be in her family and be a father to a full-time father to me, that she was going to move, and she did. And he did not pursue, or if he did, it was maybe once or twice. When I say pursue, there might have been some communication after that, maybe once or twice, and nothing more after that. Because when you think about it, he was married to someone. He had 3 children with this lady. So it was, you know, what do you do? Do you leave a wife that you have a union, a legal obligation to, and 3 kids, and come be with another woman who just has one? And I think that was just collateral damage, and unfortunately, collateral damage was left with me as a child without a father, and then having to be put in certain situations because my mother was, single, and she was not a wealthy woman, nor did she, ever hold a really good job. So it was always a struggle, and in that, when you're a single mom and trying to make ends meet, you have to rely on people that you may not necessarily always feel good about, but you have to do what you have to do in order to go to work. Or sometimes, as mothers, you need time away, and need time to go out and do certain things. And there were times when that didn't work out well for me as well. Family members, friends doing some of the wrong things, seeing too much of the wrong things. As a young person, being babysat by young people, teenagers and things like that. And then life just kept rolling, and it as it will, right? Uh, I think about family members when I was taken from my mom at 10. I was sent with my godparents, and there were aunts that were still alive at the time, and some grown cousins, and I'd thought about, I wonder why I didn't stay with them because they were in the same area, that my mother was in. But I think part of that plan was to get me away from that whole dynamic. We lived in New York, and it wasn't, in the suburbs of New York, but still close enough, and still had enough of the, influences of a fast life, uh, that if not watched properly, things could happen, things could get out of hand. But I thought about that as that was going on, and when I actually came home, I came back home to my mother at 15. And I wondered, why it was that way. Why did I have to go away and, you know, to North Carolina, from New York to North Carolina, and leave everything that was familiar to me? There was no one down there that I knew. My godparents, my godfather, his family was down there, but no one really for me, no one for myself and my godmother, right? Um, and there was a lot of upheaval during that time too. They weren't quite ready for a full time child. They weren't really settled, financially, things like that. So that just put us in a strange situation, strange dynamic, living dynamic. And I formed some hurts there. I got some hurts, some bumps and some bruises, and um, but I don't question God anymore. And when I say I wondered, and I just wondered, just wondering why, like, what would it have been if it had been different, that the story was a little bit different. And I don't question God because that time was used, even though it was kind of a hard life, it was kind of like almost being on a farm without, electric or running water, and um, it just lots of hard work. And I will say that that primed me for what I was going to yet have to encounter in life with the hard work of becoming a registered nurse. Not only the work of nursing, but the studying that it takes, the self sacrifice, the putting your life aside from, day one with the studies. I mean, just studying to be a nurse is a lot of time, a lot of effort. But with all of that, there was some things that were happening in my life that made me feel a little funny about the people that were around, the people that played, a role in my life. And it just got to be even more, as you go on and you grow up and you try to get in relationships, because we have this innate feeling, most of us, that we want to be with someone, a partner. We want companionship, right? And when you're young, you don't always pick wise. You don't know what to pick for. You don't know how to pick. You don't know what you're picking. You don't know what you need. When you're young, and just calamity in the relationship realm. Even when I decided to walk out my faith in church and study the Word, and learn how to walk with God every day, and how to put what in scripture and theory, put that to everyday practice. And even that was, there were some, I ran into some people with some things, some people that did some things to me, that should have never happened. And that, I would have to say, would be one of the hardest of disappointments, because you know you're taught that, God, the things of God, church, though I know that to not be the case at this time in my life. I've grown and understand that, the church is full of hurting people. So what happens when you put people that are hurting together? Hurting people hurt people, right? But it still doesn't stop the hurt. It still doesn't um, help you to avoid the bruising of these calamities, right? So when I realized that church, because church being a building and the people in the church, some of them were not safe, I really began to pull back and become more and more self sufficient. And that's kind of a trap because you are not made for that. God is the only one who doesn't disappoint. And even when you're walking out your day to day life, when things happen, uh, losing a job, losing a person that you love, uh, hardships, bills, accidents, things like that. Now here we are in the war. Uh, None of those things, what would I say? None of those things keep you from being hurt, right? Those things are going to happen, but God is the only constant in that. And God doesn't necessarily mean the church or church functions because these things are run and organized by people. People are flawed. And once you come to that conclusion, once you've actually been able to sit down and spend time with that fact and spend time getting to know God's Spirit, uh, I am the one for yourself, that's the only time that you can say that you don't put those stringent needs on people and on things. I trust you with my heart. When you're in a relationship, I trust you with my finances. If you're a bank teller or a person in the bank or someone in your investments, I trust you with my child if you're the daycare provider or the babysitter or even a family member that you're leaving your child with. But there are going to be times when people fail, and that has taken me quite a long time. I'm going to say probably within the last couple of years have I finally gotten peace with knowing that even if I put my trust in someone and what do I need to trust that person? You want to know they have a good track record. You want to see that they've been good to others. That they don't lie, they don't cheat. How you people that pull you aside and want to talk to you about things. You got to watch it sometimes because the things that they talk about to you about other people, they may be the same things that they talk about other people, and it's you're the source, the brunt of their conversation, the brunt of the being the subject. So, and I don't expect everyone to be perfect. There's a much better let's see, a much better vision I have now with trust. I pray when I have a need for something, someone, you know, God put that person in my path in a way that can only be you. Um, Help me to look at me on the inside and know my faults, and my breaks, my cracks, and to be able to be honest with people as you're forming relationships. I mean, you don't meet someone and tell them, all of a sudden, the first day, tell them all your secrets and everything that's troubling you and all of that. Not that, but as time goes on, being able to be vulnerable and share with other people about yourself, and that is what I would need. That's what I need now. I don't care that your past has been tainted. I don't care that you have not always been perfect. It's about who you are now, what your heart is about now. What uh, what are you doing with your life now? Are you progressing? Are you taking steps to move yourself in the direction that you're supposed to in your calling? Just being a good human every day. And let me tell you, that sounds so simple, but that spills over into everything in life, how you drive on the road, um, how long does road rage hang on to you? I mean, we all get a little angry at somebody when they do something silly on the road, uh, in the stores, in the grocery store, um, in the DMV. My gosh, I was just there 2 days ago, 3 hours in the DMV just for a simple little name change situation, nothing to do with anything important. But how do people handle those kinds of things? How long do they stay down? How long do they stay angry? Um, what is their idea? What is their idea about trust and being trustworthy? Can I ask them questions about things like that? What's near and dear to their heart? Who do they love? Who do they value? Um, and that stuff takes a little bit of time. Sometimes you have to trust off the bat, without anything, without any background. When you go to the bank, right? You don't get to ask your teller all these questions or anything like that. You trust that who has gone before you, the people in the bank, the business that who's over the bank, that they have interviewed and they have screened properly, these people, so that you can trust them. But nothing's guaranteed, and that's okay, because even if something happens awry, and I am a living testament because so many things went awry from baby to now, God always works it out for your good. I don't care what it is, I don't care how bad it hurts, how many tears you cry, how depressed you might feel, how much PTSD or anxiety you might have after these things have happened. God is faithful. He's faithful. And when we get honest with ourselves about what we need, who we want to be, who God wants us to be, and that doesn't mean this perfect person, but what your call is. What's your call? And even if you don't have this big, quote quotes, air quotes, call, but how am I supposed to be on an everyday basis? How am I supposed to be to my neighbors, to my friends, to the mailman delivering mail, to the Amazon person delivering a package, you know? So, all that being said, in one way, there's a lot that goes into trusting someone, um, but then sometimes you just have to trust God. It comes down to, I trust the universe. It's all planned, lined up, ordered for me. The word says our steps are ordered by God. And I believe that that is a true thing. It has not always been easy. There's some things that I sometimes wish I could forget, right? Um, just because I don't want to feel the pain again, not forget because I didn't want, I don't realize that it did work for me. I know that who I am is because of what I've been through, but I don't always want to think about it because I don't want to relive that pain, right? Um, but yeah, I think that's a big thing right now in everything, as we're moving about in this world of uncertainty. You know, uh, what do we need to trust a person? What do we need to trust ourselves? And that is getting to know yourself, spending that time. How do we even trust God? Because there's some people that have hurts that they hold on to and say that it's God. There's healing, though. There's healing for all those things. And for anybody who thinks that there's no hope, that it's too far gone, that you're too sad, you're too down, there's too many bills, there's the sickness is too much. None of that is true. Our God is more than able. The universe conspires for your good, for your good. You just have to get that mindset. And it first starts with a thought, that starts with a prayer, and eyes that are open and hands that are open to receive. I hope that blessed somebody. I'm glad that that was the last entry, because I probably would be like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to do that again, because that's super. It's super hard to be vulnerable about those things in life. But I'm grateful. I'm grateful to be who I am at this place, that someone can eat off my plate. That is my hope. That is my desire. That's why I'm here. That you might be able to eat off my plate and not have to do as much heavy lifting as I did. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you feel that someone would benefit, please like, share, and subscribe. And we will see you next time when we will delve into a little bit of what's coming with our nurse survival kit. Blessings. Have a great day.